My name is Nancy, and I'm 48 years old. I've been living with my in-laws for a few years now, taking care of my mother-in-law, Linda, who has dementia. Nancy, do you know where my socks are? I want to go for a walk, but I can't find them. Linda, by any chance, are you wearing 2 socks on your right foot? Oh, you're right. That's why it was hard to walk. Living with Linda, who was diagnosed with dementia, has been manageable so far, thanks to her mild symptoms, which occasionally require assistance with daily tasks. But, on the bright side, wearing 2 socks must have kept your toes warm, right? It's good to avoid getting cold feet. Yes, indeed. I've heard that some people with dementia can become irritable, but Linda has a childlike innocence. Compared to others, I probably feel less stressed about caregiving. Alright, we're all set. Shall we go for a walk together? After fixing her socks, we head out for our daily walk. Even though her symptoms are mild, I can't let her wander alone, so I've switched to working from home to take care of her. Surprising and troubling actions do happen, but our tranquil daily walks make life peaceful. It's strange not seeing James around. If he's up to mischief outside, I'll give him a talking to. Linda mentioned this at dinner. James will be back tomorrow. His business trip was quite long this time. Oh, he was on a business trip? I thought he might be wandering around somewhere again. Her slightly disappointed tone made me chuckle. Were you planning to scold him? Yes, my husband James isn't a bad person, but his lax attitude towards various things is a bit of a problem. He gets so engrossed in work and hobbies that he loses track of time, and he's also careless with money. So I have to give him his allowance in installments to prevent overspending. Whenever I'm exasperated with him, my Linda steps in to reprimand him on my behalf. Linda originally had a background in science. The logic she used to corner my husband was astonishing, leaving him speechless, and his flustered expression was quite amusing. Our cohabitation with Linda is probably much better than most mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationships, but as she mentioned, James has been away from home a lot lately. He says he's working harder because I've cut back on work and our income has decreased, but I have mixed feelings about it. Because we moved in with my in-laws and saved on rent and other expenses, our financial situation is almost break-even. I wish James would spend more time at home and cherish his mother. Especially in the last 3 months, he's been coming home late and going on many business trips. And then, there was this incident when he returned from a trip. As usual, I was putting away his laundry from the trip when I found an unfamiliar undergarment in his bag. Hey, where did this undergarment come from? Huh? I asked casually, but James looked shockingly surprised. It was in your bag. It's not something I bought, so I was wondering. Oh, that. I bought it myself. The one I took was old, right? It tore, so I threw it away. But I packed all new ones for you. Did it tear? Did it? Maybe it was just poorly made. I see. My suspicion deepened with my husband's evasive behavior. Do you think something's off, Whiskers? I talked to the stray cat, Whiskers, that we've taken in. Whiskers is a calico cat that Linda adores, and now, she's also grown fond of me. Well, she only responds with a meow, but still. After checking more thoroughly, I even noticed a faint scent of perfume on his business trip bag. Could it be an affair? As I pet Whiskers' belly, she gently paws back at me. Are you trying to comfort me? Meow. Then, let's investigate. Ah. Linda, were you listening? If something seems off, immediate action is necessary. Don't worry, that boy is sloppy, he can't hide anything. There must be evidence left. Linda chuckled. Linda, you're talking as if he's already guilty of having an affair? Despite my retort, I began investigating my husband. Of course, I hope to prove his innocence. But... what? I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the investigation report. When my husband returned late at night from his business trip and sprawled tiredly on the sofa, I broached the subject calmly. We need to have a serious talk. Feeling the gravity in my voice, he sat up straight on the sofa. Is there something you need to tell me? Huh? As he visibly panicked, I sighed inwardly. Is there something you need to say? Nancy, what's going on? Is there something you need to say? Just like how Linda used to interrogate him, I stared intently into his eyes. After a moment, he hung his head. Ooh, well, sorry. The business trip was partly a lie. With that said, he hung his head, unable to come up with a response. Who were you meeting with? Who? Where did you go? Ah. Nancy, listen. The more I asked, the more he sweated and darted his eyes around. So, you're not denying that you met someone and went somewhere? Well, that is. I watched him struggle, feeling a heavy weight in my chest. Is the child cute? What? Nancy, how did you? He turned pale instantly. Remember when I asked about the undergarment? I noticed a perfume scent coming from your bag afterward, so I investigated you. I showed him the investigation report with pictures of his affair partner and their child, both smiling. That was just a drunken mistake from years ago. I found out she was married right away and never contacted her again. Once he started explaining, he couldn't stop. A few months ago, she suddenly appeared, saying she's now divorced and raising her child alone. She was struggling and wanted someone to talk to. So we ended up getting involved again while drinking. But I refused when she asked me to divorce you and marry her. I refused. He glanced at me while continuing his excuses. Then she claimed the child was mine. I couldn't believe it, it was just one time, years ago. When I demanded a DNA test, thinking there's no way. It turned out the child was indeed mine. She said she divorced her husband because the child wasn't his. The child was happy to meet his real dad. I found it hard to stay away, you know that. My husband, who had been speaking rapidly, suddenly faltered. What do you plan to do now? Well, that is. His flustered response made me sigh internally once again. Did you think everything would be fine as long as you didn't get caught? Huh? Who? You must have known it would come out eventually. I manage the bank account where your salary is deposited, you know? I was wondering why. Despite all the late nights and business trips, the amount wasn't increasing. Then there's the undergarment and the perfume. Wouldn't it be strange not to suspect something? Ah. Anyway, if this young girl really is your child, we need to think about the future and act responsibly. Let's talk again in a week. Think it over carefully. However, an unbelievable thing happened just 5 days later, over the weekend. Nancy. When I rushed to Linda's call, she was holding an envelope addressed to me. It was sent by James. And inside the envelope was a letter. To Nancy. After much thought, I've decided to leave this house. Right now, I need to think about the future of my child. I can't neglect them when they're struggling, and although I hadn't planned on having child, I've grown fond of them. Please divorce me. I plan to start a new life with my new family, to fulfill my responsibilities as a father. I'm entrusting Mom to you. Since you two get along well, I'm confident you can take care of her. Take care. James. Shall we talk? Unable to bear it any longer as Linda rubbed my back beside me, I burst into tears. After hearing what had happened and reading the letter, she gave me a tight hug. As much as he is my own child, I can't forgive James. I just can't let it go without making him realize his mistakes. What do you think, Nancy? Depending on you, I'm more than willing to cooperate. I'm prepared to push him to his limits, so don't hold back and tell me what you want to do. It was a sight of Linda furious with such intensity that it took my breath away. Although she had scolded my husband numerous times before, the aura of her anger was incomparable this time. Seeing her angry face made something shift inside me. Linda, I was wrong. Thinking I should prioritize the child or listen to James's feelings, I was treating it like it was someone else's problem. It's ridiculous. I haven't expressed any of my feelings to James. And in his letter, he didn't mention me at all. I was just like a helper. I can't accept that. I'll definitely get my revenge. My anger swelled within me. Then, Linda and I started planning our strategy. We'll ruin him. And so came my husband's next payday. Linda and I were having dinner when we heard an annoying noise at the entrance. He's here. Linda chuckled, and then the intercom rang. Who is it? I responded coldly, and my husband, appearing frightened on the screen, insisted that I open the door. Oh, you left your wife and mother to fend for themselves and giving up already, not even half a month in? Linda teased from the side. It's not about giving up. Give me back my salary. My husband demanded in a panicked voice. Well, you took your bank book with you, didn't you? There has to be more, right? He was distressed because Linda and I had requested his company to change the account for salary deposits. Let's confiscate his salary, shall we? At first, when Linda suggested it, I thought it was impossible. I assumed her dementia was progressing. But she laughed lightly. Of course, it's impossible to deposit a husband's salary into someone else's account. But it can go into the husband's own account. What? Linda called my husband's company. Mr. Johnson? It's been a while. James has been under your care. I have a little request. Mr. Johnson, the president of my husband's company, had a long-standing relationship with my in-laws and considered them benefactors. He readily agreed to my Linda's proposal. Your salary is properly deposited into an account in your name. I happen to have an account in your name. I hadn't mentioned it before. Thanks to Linda's relationship with Mr. Johnson. The company agreed to deposit my husband's salary into an account in his name that my Linda had been using to save money for her son's future. My money. Yes, your earnings. And as long as Nancy is your wife, you are obligated to support her financially. My husband was taken aback by Linda's statement. James, I haven't filed our divorce yet, so we are still legally married. What? Initially, I considered filing divorce immediately to conclude matters. However, as Linda formulated a strategy, we decided it might be wiser to maintain the marriage status, so I haven't filed our divorce yet. If you truly desired a divorce, you should file divorce by yourself before departing. Take care. With that, I ended the conversation and switched the intercom to silent mode. Naturally, the front door lock was changed, and the security chain was fastened tightly. The house was securely locked, and the security cameras installed around were fully operational, as verified by the monitor. My husband attempted to find an entry for a while but ultimately gave up and departed. You're free to use the money as you wish. No, I'll decline. My Linda offered me my husband's bank book, but I had no intention of using it. Although I was entitled to a portion of my husband's salary for marital support, my own income was adequate for our immediate needs. I accepted the bank book but discreetly placed it in a drawer. A few days later, my husband returned to the house. This time, we had summoned him, along with his affair partner and their child. Mr. Johnson. And who might this be? A DNA testing service. They offer home visits, so we arranged for them to come here. I smiled sweetly, which seemed to irritate my husband. I've told you the results are already confirmed. But I haven't observed the sample collection nor have I seen the written results. When I firmly stated my stance, my husband reluctantly consented to the test. Oh, you seem hesitant. Would the truth be inconvenient for you? It doesn't matter to us either way. But remember our conversation when we contacted you? If you agree to one condition, we'll redirect the salary back to the original account and complete the divorce. Our condition is to clarify the relationship between the three of you with this DNA test. Mr. Johnson is here as a witness. Just finish it. Conduct any necessary investigations if it brings you satisfaction. While my husband sighed heavily and prompted the service provider to proceed, the demeanor of his affair partner was starkly different. Are you leaving so soon? She retreated anxiously, roughly took her child's hand, and left without a word. Huh? My husband was stunned by the affair partner's sudden departure. This incident served as evidence of the woman's deceit, yet we did not relent in our pursuit. To my perplexed husband, Linda had only one comment. If it were me, I'd at least take the test for some quick cash and then plan my exit before the results were revealed. She's not very clever. Is she? Observing Linda's laughter, I felt a chill, realizing that despite her dementia, she was not someone to underestimate. But, my child. Was the sample genuinely yours? I casually waved another investigation report. The affair partner has quite the reputation, doesn't she? It appears she's been spinning a similar tale to every man she's been involved with around the time the child was conceived. However, it seems there's only one true father. A long-term unemployed individual from her student days. He's the actual father, isn't he? No way. Why not confirm? The address is in that report, correct? My husband glared at me, then, clutching the report, rushed out. Incredible. My Linda shrugged, and we extended our apologies and gratitude to Mr. Johnson and the service provider. Mr. Johnson declined any compensation, instead leaving us with a parting gift out of sympathy, and the service provider accepted the agreed-upon fee. Shortly thereafter, my husband returned, persistently ringing the intercom, prompting us to exchange knowing glances. It's not my child, and all the money that was in the bank account has been withdrawn. She pretends she knows nothing about it. In the evening darkness, my husband stood dejectedly, illuminated by the porch light as if under a spotlight. Linda and I couldn't help but secretly chuckle at the sight of him. "So, what brings you here?" Linda asked, trying to suppress her laughter. "Eh? What do you mean, what brings me here?" My husband muttered like a bewildered child, but Linda showed no mercy. "This is the home you left your wife and mother in. You chose to leave, so you shouldn't even think about living here, should you?" Mom? Who could that be? To me, you're a stranger since the divorce. And yet, dealing with something as challenging as dementia. There's no way I could have a son who abandons his parent like a character from a folktale, especially when I have such a dear, sweet daughter willing to take care of me. My husband's face crumpled with despair and tears, while I was touched by being referred to as a devoted daughter-in-law. "Please take the envelope from the mailbox with you when you leave. It contains just enough money for your immediate needs. Divide it into smaller amounts. Be careful not to spend it all at once, or you won't make it to the next payday. Your salary will be deposited back into the original account starting next month. Nancy. It's always been only you for me. If you still feel the same, we can make it work again, can't we?" My husband's face lit up with a glimmer of hope, but I no longer harbored such feelings for him. "That envelope is the last gesture of consideration I will show you. I will be filing for divorce soon, and then we will be nothing but strangers. Thank you for everything. Wait, please. I'm sorry. I swear I'll never do anything like this again, just forgive me this one time." With a beep, Linda cut him off. After that, we sold the house and relocated. Linda had arranged for me to be her legal guardian before her dementia advanced, enabling us to sell the property. I was once again impressed by Linda's meticulous attention to detail, and I couldn't help but admire her. Furthermore, she moved into a residential care facility. I now live alone, very close by. Seeing her every day is comforting, and it has also allowed me to fully return to my work. Once the property sale was finalized and we had relocated, I filed for divorce and pursued alimony from my husband. Linda insisted so emphatically to the lawyer that she wanted to see the entire balance of the bank account in my husband's name, that my ex-husband couldn't utter a word and handed everything over without protest. It's bittersweet to become estranged from Linda, but I hope we can continue to share a close bond.